Hello and welcome to PM Express, and let's start by saying many condolences and sympathies goes to the family of the former Vice President. Very sad, very tragic indeed. Hope you all had a wonderful Republic as well. Distressed emergency service is the issue on the table, and I hope that we can be truthful to ourselves, because whether we like it or not, every nation deserves the leaders it gets. And everyone, no one in this world can be trampled upon unless they allow themselves to. As a people, we are becoming very temperamental and very angry. But we are only angry when we are told to do the right thing. For instance, somebody selling by the road or squatters by the side of the road, and the DCE says, listen, you need to leave, then we get angry. But if there are no ambulances and leaders say, look, we'll buy ourselves luxury cars, we don't get angry. If there are no hospitals and others fly outside for medical health, we don't get angry. We are only angry at when we have to obey the law. And I pray, as if you're watching JNI, I said that we have substituted efficiency with prayer. So instead of working hard to get efficiency and equity in the system, we pray and we go all night and we fast and we jump and jig instead of efficiency. So here we are. Instead of just calling for an ambulance, we are just left helpless and we are praying. By the end of the show, I hope that we can pray to get angry. Angry at the wrong things, so that efficiency will come. And our prayers, yes, we shall pray, Elvis, but we'll pray to say, thank you, God. Not God, get me an ambulance. Because for that, He's already provided. My name is Nana Nsakwa, the fourth Chief of the Little Republic of Akwaboah Dumasa. I have two fine gentlemen who are going to tell us the state of our emergency. Don't go away. Well, thank you very much for staying, and I hope you're praying that you don't even get an emergency, because if you wait to get an emergency and you pray, you might be very disappointed and think there's no God. But indeed, there is a God who has given us reason and all the wisdom it is to get ambulances for when emergency happens. It's just that we don't use it. But sitting right next to me is Mr. Foster Asson Brijan, who is the head of operations, Ghana Ambulance Services. Foster, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And then, no strangers to the show, Dr. Joseph Akama, who was former Deputy CEO of Ghana Ambulance Services, but today he's wearing two hats. He's wearing a hat as the former CEO of Ghana Ambulance Services and also as a heart specialist on the show. Let me start with you, Foster. We've heard, we have 55 ambulances. How bad are things? I don't know if you are allowed to say how bad things are, being that it's a government institution, but try your best.
Well, thank you very much, and my greetings to all your cherished viewers. Yes, indeed, National Ambulance Service has come far. We started with just few ambulances in 2004, just 7 ambulance stations with 10 ambulances. We moved on to 24
That's
stations.
2004.
That's 2004.
The nation had, so every region had one.
By that time, we were even in only 3 regions. That is Greater Accra, Eastern and Ashanti, with just 7 stations as a pilot. So after a year of operations, and then assessment was made and it's realized that we need to expand, because we at the end of the day they realized that there is the need, so we need to expand. And so we moved from that number of 7 to 24. And currently, as we speak, we have 130 ambulance stations across the country.
I see.
So we've come somewhere, but unfortunately, as we are expanding, then there's the need for us to also, in terms of equipment-wise and personnel altogether, we must also increase the numbers. But unfortunately, the ambulances we are currently using were procured in 2011, and we started using them early 2012, which is over 6 years now. We are supposed to get new ones to replace the old ones, since the lifespan is about 5 years for an ambulance because of the kind of work we use them for. And unfortunately, the process of procuring the new ones to replace these old ones had a problem along the line. And so for that matter, they couldn't procure them as such. That is why today we are talking about only 55 functional ambulances. But not that it is static. Actually, because we be moving to workshop and coming back, so sometimes we move up to maybe 60, 70, and sometimes it even come down to maybe 50. But we are trying to maintain what we have now so that we don't break that completely. So that's the situation we find ourselves now.
Doc, you were the former CEO. I wonder how you survived, because the CEO is a very, very principled man. So how did you survive in this environment?
Well, let me first and foremost say good evening to your cherished viewers, and then express my condolences to Dr. Mr. Atta, who is my colleague at the University of Ghana School of Medicine, and the family of the late Vice President. This is a sad time for all of us. So my time with National Ambulance Service was principled indeed, and he voiced to that we tried.
School of Medicine?
Yes. So I am a cardiologist. I am an interventional cardiologist. I am an acute care physician, highly trained.
No, it's just that I thought Mr. Atta was an economist. I didn't realize.
No, the doctor. I'm sorry, his relative is a doctor at my hospital. The relative.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yeah. So I didn't get you right, but my colleague is his relative.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
So when I joined them, the focus was on training and capacity building. So that is where my focus was. And of course, when you have highly trained professionals who are not well equipped, it becomes a problem. Or highly trained professionals who are half-baked, that becomes a problem. So the goal was to encourage them to be really properly trained and skill-wise upgrade them to international standards. And we did that. And I can say we really did, with the help of Dr. Zakaria, who is the CEO of National Ambulance Service. And he really spearheaded most of the current fleet of ambulances and then the crew members that we have. We got up to about 1,700 or so, isn't it? 1,600 ambulance team members. In Ghana, we see them as ambulance drivers. They are not ambulance drivers. These are skilled people. They are one of the most skilled personnel in our health service system, trained to take care of people outside the hospital base. But we don't understand them. And we also trained Army personnel, over 150 of them, to be able to take care of people in the house, in the street, and then bring them back to the hospital when they need them. But we're not using them. We're not helping them. So therefore, the community becomes desperate when they are still around. The fact that they don't have ambulances doesn't mean that they cannot help. So I think that going forward, we have to readdress our emergency care system properly and relook at which institutions are mandated by law to take care of emergencies outside the hospital, so that they can be helped to build a very formidable emergency care system.
First, 55, so how many do we have in Accra?
Accra, the total stations in Accra is 16.
Okay.
16 stations. So each ambulance station has one ambulance.
So we have 16 ambulances in Accra.
But currently not all the 16 are functioning because of these breakdowns. So we are only trying to manage and ensure that we bring them back to the field because of the breakdowns. Most of our people we have a person who are also working on the broken down ones at the workshop. So that is what we are doing now, to ensure that we are able to maintain them. But one major issue is that because of the how old these vehicles are, the maintenance cost is very high. And because we also don't have any dedicated funding as far as our work is concerned, then it becomes a challenge. When you don't have the spare parts, then repairing them also becomes an issue. So that is one major factor, because the service depends on solely government subvention. It is about how much government can provide at any particular time. And if you are only depending on government funding, and you know that so many agencies, even within the Ministry of Health alone, there are so many agencies who are all going to take from the same kitty. So sometimes it becomes a challenge that getting enough funds to procure the spare parts to repair the ambulances becomes an issue. That is why we can see that some of the ambulances are not functioning.
Well, there's been a few allegations. I haven't had any personal experience where people say, well, the ambulance driver turns up and says, look, madam, I can take you, but you have to put 5 gallons in the car, otherwise, I ran out of fuel. I mean, you have such cases come to the office?
Yeah, let me explain it this way. We are operating 2 types of services. One is emergency service and one is non-emergency. When you say emergency, where somebody has just collapsed and the ambulance service is called, we go in and pick, stabilize and send a patient to hospital free of charge. When there's a road traffic crash and we are called to respond to such a call, we go, we do our work, send the patients to hospitals free of charge. But where we say non-emergency is where somebody is in a hospital, maybe a district hospital, who has been stabilized but need a higher level of care. So he has to be transported from there to, let's say, Komfanochi or Kulebu. Then in that case, we need to ask for fuel support. The reason being that, as I said earlier on, we don't have any dedicated source of funding. And buying fuel, repairing the ambulances, all is cost. So in that case, then we ask the relatives or the patient to support the service with some fuel to enable us to pick the person from that lower level of care to the higher level of care. So that is the only time the patient, the EMTs request for fuel assistance. But for rare emergencies, it is free.
That's if you get the ambulance.
Yes, it's free.
That's if you get the ambulance. So is it the issue of priority comes up? Is it a culture of us just not prioritizing health that's caused this, or ambulances are such a rocket science that we can't seem to get some and manage?
No, I think we're overwhelmed, in my view. And until we sit down and really look at our healthcare system and find out which areas to prioritize, we'll be running around like chicken with no head. So there are 3 areas when it comes to emergencies. Okay, the out-of-hospital care as number 1, the emergency care number 2, and then the intensive care. These are the 3 priorities when it comes to very critically ill patients, be it trauma or any medical emergencies. So out-of-hospital care, it has been mandated to the ambulance service. So we have to encourage them. We have to equip them. We have to use them. We have to team up with them. It's not just saying there's an ambulance service when you don't know how to call them, when you don't know how to use their capabilities, even in the absence of an ambulance. Then when the patient gets to the hospital, how our hospital equipped? Are they equipped for emergencies? Are the personnel ready for an emergency? So we hear all the stories about no bed situation. Is it really no bed, or the person is not competent to handle the emergency? The person is afraid to handle that emergency. And you can be traumatized handling an emergency. I've handled so many emergencies in the USA and back here. And one can suffer so much trauma from handling one single emergency. So when they turn the patient away, let's not just blame one carrier, but look at the training of the person. Are they really competent to handle these emergencies? Is the hospital capable of providing the services? Now, when we revive that person, is there an intensive care unit to take up that person? Currently, there are few intensive care units in the country Kolebu Medical Block, we have only 3 beds that are operating. There are no nurses. In the surgical block, they have larger capabilities. But is that what we should be operating in the country? 37 have few emergency intensive care units. We should look at emergency care in a global fashion, in totality. Let the collaborators, let the stakeholders come together. We shouldn't repeat this. It happened with PVOBIN. It happened with another person. It happened with... It's a daily occurrence that should not happen. And so we as a nation have to come together. And I'll be talking about what to do as an individual when you encounter somebody with sudden collapse or cardiac arrest.
Foster, it's no fault of yours, but it's black culture. I remember once upon a time, the UK government wanted to do a 3rd runway. It was the Minister of Transport who was leading the demonstration with the placards. Said, look, never, because this will bring pollution and this and that and that. And so under his own party, he was leading a demonstration saying that no. And he was the Minister of Transport, that he's not going to allow it. It's not something that as black people we do, where you as a director of operations will hold a placard and say, listen, government, enough is enough. 55 is literally, human abuse. And it's human abuse because we see the sort of vehicles that, sometimes even serial killers, literally serial killers who call into radio stations and spew out garbage will be giving, cars at our expense. And so when the same state turns up and says, well, I can't afford ambulances, I think you guys are not angry enough. So we have to get angry.
Well, not just getting angry. You see, you want the system to work. And this is your work and you must actually perform. So if the equipment needed to perform your duties are not there, definitely you feel even sad and you don't even know what to do. But the positive thing we have now is that a promise has been made that very soon we are going to get new ambulances, which we are hoping for, that promise will be fulfilled so that we get the new ambulances, which the government has promised us. And similarly, because getting an ambulance goes with also trained personnel. So we have also been given opportunity, clearance to recruit new staff.
I hope you're not putting party faithfuls in there.
Well, that one definitely we are going to do it openly. So whoever qualifies will have the opportunity of applying. And so they will be shortlisted and then the appropriate personnel will be selected to be trained. So we are doing it side by side. So as the government is preparing to get us new ambulances, we are also preparing to train new staff so that by the time the ambulances get in, then the staff would have been also trained so that together we can now move and expand our services into the other districts. So critically, yes, we are handicapped, but we believe that the promise that has been made will definitely come to pass so that we get new ambulances to work with.
No, unless it won't come unless you use the media to, get people to get angry, to put pressure on them.
I believe that is why we are here.
Well,
this is one of the means,
the vice president,
this is one of the means of getting
God bless his soul, if he hadn't dropped dead, it would be business as usual. Mm-hmm. If he hadn't dropped dead, it would be business as usual. And I think Dr. was saying I shouldn't, it shouldn't get to this point, because by this time, we want to be seeing special repair centers for every region by now being set up, so that when these ambulances come, that they can have backup services and everything. But it will be coming as a, quote and unquote, a voting ticket that, look, vote for me because I supplied ambulances. I won't be surprised at all. Doc, why will a healthy man in Egypt, suddenly drop like that?
Mm-hmm. So I don't want to use this scenario to describe, but what I want to say is that anybody who collapses, be a woman, man, anywhere, irrespective of what you're doing, there are few causes, and most of the causes are not to be diagnosed immediately. What one has to do is to keep the heart and the vital organs functioning till help comes. You don't need to know what caused them to collapse. So long as you can get them going till help comes, that is the most important. So sudden collapse could be as a result of a seizure, could be a result of a cardiac arrest, and cardiac arrest is when the heart just stops for so many reasons. One of them could be rhythm problems. Maybe the heart beats so fast, there's a rhythm called ventricular fibrillation, which is tantamount to death. Ventricular fibrillation is not compatible with life. When that happens, the heart ceases. Or it could be as a result of a cardiac problem, functioning problem, as a result of a heart attack. But a heart attack eventually leads to ventricular fibrillation, which will lead to the cardiac arrest. There are other instances like poisoning, very toxic poisons, toxins that can stop the heart from beating. There are certain conditions where the heart is not formed properly or has a defect, and suddenly it can generate this ventricular fibrillation and cardiac rhythm disturbance, like an inheritable condition where the conduction is abnormal or the muscle is abnormal, called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. These can occur during exercises, or suddenly you are sitting there and then the heart just goes haywire. Whatever it is, when there's a sudden cardiac arrest, like I said, few causes. One of them, heart attack, that led to ventricular fibrillation and then the cardiac arrest. You need to make sure you call for help. First, call for help. Once you call for help, you return to the victim, and at the victim's side, you establish whether he's responding. Sometimes it's a diabetic coma. Maybe he's just weakened because his sugar went down. And you may be able to give him orange juice or something, toffee, and then he'll wake up. But if he's not responding, he's not breathing, your immediate action is to make sure that there's no any risk to you or any bystanders. The scene is safe, and you initiate chest compression. And I'll be showing this device very soon, what it's used for. Chest compression should be done if you know how a second ticks on an analog clock. You double that. If you double that and you chest compress right in the middle of the chest, so I'm going to use my Dio, if he doesn't mind. This is the chest. The heart in most people is to the left of the chest. I'm going to put my hand right close to the heart, and then I'll put this one over it, and I'll press as hard as possible with the person lying flat. That's all you need to do. It's tiring, but you do it and teach other people around, watch what I'm doing till help comes. That's all you need to do. Why do we need to do that? At the point of cardiac arrest, there's no blood going anywhere, including the heart itself. It has no blood supply. The brain has no blood supply. The brain depends on blood supply. 4 minutes to 5 minutes, if the blood does not go to the brain, forget it. The brain is not going to recover. Of course, there are miracles. Okay. So you need to keep on pressing the chest till help comes. And most of the help will come by either ambulance service or nearby people who have something called the AED.
Doc, before we get here,
yes,
in compressing the chest, how about,
yes,
you see them blow into?
Correct. So it used to be A, B, C, D, but what is happening is at this point we mainly want you to send the blood around. So we depend on the circulation. So it's CAB. So CAB means circulation, airway, and breathing. Okay? So just concentrate, because you are a lay person, concentrate on chest compression only till help comes. When the help comes, there will be 2 people.
Look, in this procedure,
yes,
you will be forcing blood in the system?
Exactly. So you turn the heart into a suction ball. You know, Bentua. We know what Bentua did to us as children, right? When you press on a Bentua and release, okay, it sucks out that toxic fluid, and then you pump it, it goes out. So similarly, when you compress the heart, you pump the blood out. And then
one every second, or?
No, 2 every second.
2 every second.
2 every second. If you can keep that rate, that means 120 per minute. That is excellent. So 2 every second. And you can count loud. And anytime you press, you send the blood out. You release, the heart sucks the blood. Press, it sends the blood out. That's all you need to do. The brain will keep on surviving, the heart itself will keep on surviving, and then when help comes, then you have more people. So now we have 2 people. The second person will take over the chest compression, then I'll go and take over the airway. That's the only time you have time to look at the airway.
Oh, let me bring Foster in here. Foster, so are your staff trained in this?
Perfect. All our personnel are well trained, as the doctor said earlier on. We call them emergency medical technicians. And our training is 1 full year. 1 full year. So they will be taken through all the basic anatomy, physiology, before even we come to this CPR, which is mean by cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which the doctor had just explained. So they are well trained to be able to resuscitate anybody with the necessary equipment. We have the AED in the ambulance. We have our ambu bags. We have everything.
I was just going to ask that, are your ambulances able to support life?
Yes.
They are?
Yes.
Now, I said this because...
They are well equipped with oxygen, suction machines, AED. Even some of them, we have patient monitors in them that they can monitor your progress as you move on. So everything is in the ambulance.
I say this because I remember when, God bless his soul, Atta Mills died, former president, Dr. Mills died, and Professor Kosa questioned that there were these ambulances that came in, and he says, have we asked if these ambulances can support life? We made politics out of it, and a lot of people insulted him, you know. And I found it strange because it was just a question that, look, can these ambulances support life? I.e., if they pick you up from Legon, can it get you to Kolebu and, you know, have all oxygen and stuff in there? And I don't know why people got so angry. That's why I wanted to find out if the ambulances we have can support life, and it's not just an orphan.
Actually, that is why, if you are aware of these ambulances that were supposed to be procured for us, which has landed in some difficulties. Just because when they came, we realized that the equipment that is supposed to be in those ambulances were not there. That's why we rejected them, and we've not been able to use them because they were not equipped.
They can support life.
Yes, it was just a van, and without any equipment. So that is why we could not take them on board for us to use them. All the ambulances that National Ambulance Service is using are well equipped with all the needed equipment, and Doctor can bear me out that our ambulances are not just any ordinary van. They are well equipped, and the personnel are also well trained to be able to use the equipment in those ambulances. So as far as National Ambulance Service is concerned, we are on top of our job. But we can have private ambulances in the system. Some institutions may have their own private ambulances. For that one, I can't speak for them, whether they are equipped or not equipped. But as far as National Ambulance Service is concerned, all the ambulances that we are using are well equipped. They actually came fully equipped.
On that note, I'm going to take a quick break. Don't go away. We're coming straight back. Well, thank you very much for staying, and the number is 030221169, 030221169 or 692. Give us a call, and maybe you need to know what to do in case of emergency. I haven't asked the question you wanted to ask, you can ask, or you want to share your sentiment about our priorities with regards to health. You are free to also vent out. But I want to go to Foster and find out. Foster, if you pick somebody from Dansoman, has your driver got the number of Dr. Ankama? Let's say go and it's a heart problem. Has he got Dr. Ankama's number or another heart? Just look, I got this patient. What do I do? Where do I send him? Where is the bed? Or is it literally try a look? Go here, no. I have this patient, no bed. Go to the. What's the system?
Okay, let me take you through our dispatch process.
Let me go to Boko, and I have Shakiru on the line. Hello, Shakiru. Shakiru. Line dropped.
Hello?
Shakiru, let me hear you.
Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, my name is Shakiru. I'm calling from Boko.
Let me hear you. Quick one.
Yeah, I just wanted to change the last statement made by the man in the middle. I don't know his name.
It's called Foster.
He asserted that all, but it is not true. They don't have oxygen. They don't have suction apparatus.
Mm-hmm.
They are just like those ordinary banks he's talking of. So I want to challenge him, but it is not true. The ambulances currently in the system are not as.
Shakiru, thank you very much for that correction. Let me go to Kofi. Hello, Kofi.
Hello?
Yes, Kofi.
Hello?
Kofi, let me hear you. You're on air.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. Let me hear you.
Yes, I want to find out whether there are plans to train more EMT personnel to man the ambulances.
Okay, we'll ask that question for you. The number is 03022 11691 or 692. So keep your questions coming, and I will ask for you. Well, there was a correction to say that some of the ambulances turn up with no oxygen.
Let me once again assure Shakiru that National Ambulance Service ambulances are well equipped.
Well, they may have the oxygen container, but is it filled?
With the needed equipment in terms of oxygen, suction machine that he's talking about. If it's suction machine, we have two types. We have the electric one, we have also a manual one. So if the electric one is not working, there is a manual one that can be used. As I said earlier on, there are private ambulances. And even those hearses that pick dead bodies, they have branded them ambulances. So if you see anything written ambulance on it, doesn't mean it belongs to National Ambulance Service. So there are a lot of vehicles in town which carry dead bodies, but they've written ambulance on them. And they are not really an ambulance. They are supposed to be hearse. Such ones, you may have nothing in them. But for National Ambulance Service, our ambulances are well equipped. And to your question that you asked earlier on, I was trying to explain about dispatch protocol. When somebody calls for an ambulance, the call will go to our dispatch center. And the dispatch center will, the one occupying the dispatch center will interrogate the person to know exactly what the problem is. Then based on the discussion, he will be able to know what the emergency is. And then he or she will dispatch an ambulance closer to the location. When they pick the person, they will report back to the dispatch center, giving them details about the patient. And then the dispatch center will in turn also inform the receiving hospital about the case that they are bringing to that hospital, giving them even estimated time of arrival. All these things are done perfectly, and then when they get to the hospital, they also receive the patient. But sometimes the communication becomes an issue, where you call the receiving hospital and you are not getting them through. That's where we have challenges.
Let me go to Sunyani. Hello, Emmanuel.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Emmanuel. Recently, I was in Sunyani. Let me hear you.
Yes, thank you for the discussion. I have a question. Just last Sunday, there's an issue in Sunyani or Puha where they discussed like concerning ambulance guns. And we were with the view that and our politicians probably have to calm down the ambulance that is provided for the period for the gun. So it is very tough for a politician that they really need system of ambulances to use for period for service. Like a lot of political getting staff, they will not tell the whole thing of the ambulance that they are fighting well or not. So I think before we talk play politics with our hospitals and staff, we would face the challenge. We discuss too, but the solution will not be provided.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. The line was quite terrible there. But let me go to Tamale. Abdul.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Abdul. Let me hear you.
Please, I wanted to find out about the comments that there was no ambulance to take the former V to hospital. Was he in a gym or at a clinic?
Okay, that's not being discussed, and I think there's a commission set up for that. So once that is done, I'm sure we'll put it out. But I think we were discussing generally, ambulance shortages in the country, not necessarily to the VIP, even though the VIP has generated this conversation. But we are looking at a more general conversation than that. Doc, this your electric machine. Maybe you have to tell us what it does, and should an ambulance have one?
Yes, so a very good point. All ambulances are labeled in terms of hierarchy of care. There's a basic ambulance. Basic ambulance means they provide the basic life support and the training of the personnel at that level. So they should be able to provide care and use an AED. There is an advanced ambulance which goes at a higher level where they have to be able to provide monitoring, even ventilation, and even higher level care supported by trained personnel. So that means that the ambulance personnel have different levels of training.
So that's a mobile hospital.
It's almost like a mobile hospital. Of course, you have the planes and other helicopters and stuff. So this is the basic equipment, which unfortunately is lacking in Ghana. And I want to emphasize that the Parliament House, the courts, the churches, airports have not got this equipment. Few places have this equipment. You go to an international hospital, in airport abroad, and you walk 200 meters, you'll find one of these equipment. This equipment is called the AED. And AED basically comes handy when somebody collapses and is unable to respond. Once you're doing chest compression, that alone can sustain the person for a while. But you need, nothing is more efficient than the heart itself pumping the blood across the system. So to get the heart back to its rhythm, you need to shock it out of that rhythm that made it stop. And this is an AED. This is a life equipment. Once you have the AED, it takes you through the operation. You don't need to do anything. You turn it on, and all you need to do is listen.
Begin by removing all clothing from the patient's chest. Cut clothing if needed.
Once you do that, the next thing is for it to give you more instructions. And then you'll be able to put this...
When patient's chest is bare, remove protective cover and take out white adhesive pads.
You see that it's so easy. This equipment will take you through. You put the pads on, and it takes you through. It's able to recognize bad rhythm and to tell you that I recognize a bad rhythm, I am going to shock. Stand clear, and to deliver a shock. And most often it's accurate.
And if the rhythm is okay, it won't shock it?
It won't shock it. That means that the person has a rhythm, maybe it's not adequate to generate enough power to send blood around, but it recognizes that there is a rhythm. Wow. And to tell you chest compression, that means you need to look at other causes. Maybe the person has lost so much blood. Maybe there's no glucose in the system.
So you're saying like with public, like parliament, churches, schools and stuff, as part of your first aid kit, it's advisable to have this?
Amen.
Maybe your place here, you need one.
We need one here.
You need one here.
Yes, your place here, you need one.
This is very handy. And we can train people to use it.
Doc, let me quickly let me apologize. Nancy in Chufopra. So Nancy, let me apologize for keeping you hold for quite a while, but let me hear you.
Yes, please, I want to contribute to the board.
Very good, Nancy, let me hear you.
I will let the one who called says that we were not well equipped. We should go to the nearby station. If there's any ambulance around there, should go and do the inspection. That's what I can only say.
Okay, Nancy. And let me go to Tamale. I have Abdul in Tamale. Hello, Abdul.
Good evening, Nana.
Let me apologize for keeping you on hold for too long.
Apologize.
Thank you.
Please, Nana.
Yeah.
When I heard you speaking on JoyNews Prime, I decided to just do some small research. And I found out that I Googled an amount a good ambulance will cost and a V8. And interested, you will see that the amount a V8 costs way exceeds the amount an ambulance will cost.
Wow.
So why is it that our politicians are failing us? They don't want to channel those monies into our health, but rather buying those cars for us faithful. Why? They don't have us as us. And 87th December will come out to vote for them to go and spend money with their family. In fact, it's so pathetic. It's pathetic, Nana. And I want to ask Mr. Foster, is it possible that a private person can operate an ambulance service, like us in buying a good ambulance, equipping it and training personnel so that in case of any emergency, they will contact that private person. So for a fee, I don't know whether it's possible.
An ambulance Uber, let's ask.
Yes, it's possible. Even currently, there are private ambulances being operated in the country.
The law allows that?
Yes.
So
we have West Africa Rescue Association. It's private. WARA is private. And there are individuals who also own an ambulance that they are operating in the country.
So do they have to come certification from you?
For now, there's no law that they have to come to us. I know there's going to be a law, which is Ambulance Service Council. If that council is formed, then it becomes a regulator, which will regulate all ambulances that are in operation, even including National Ambulance Service. But that's becoming a council that will oversee all operations of all ambulances in the country, including National Ambulance Service. So when that law becomes operational, then all ambulances or individuals operating ambulances will have to register with the council, and then they will be regulated.
So basically, I can have my number on a van, say, look, in case of emergency, call me, and then be driving around. If somebody legs break and calls me, I turn up and then drive them to a hospital.
For now, the law allows individuals to operate ambulances.
I see. That's a bit worrying.
Well, I think once you do that, then you are liable. The family can take you on. And Ghanaians are very savvy. We know who can provide a service or not. So when you say you have an ambulance and the opening is not really an ambulance, they will take you on.
Doc, in case of in times of emergencies, what are the timings? Because you always say, oh, the first 10 minutes is important, the first 3 minutes is important. What are the timings and what should we do?
So in terms of emergencies, every second counts. Every second counts. So do not waste time. First, make sure you call for help, because you can't do it by yourself. Always call for help. 193, and if you mistakenly call 191 and there's a police, tell them you want the ambulance service. They'll be able to reach them. They have their own numbers. They will call the fire, 192. They'll be able to reach them. Call for help, shout out help needed here, and then go to the person's side. Make sure that the place is seen. 4 minutes. By the end of 4 minutes, getting to 5 minutes, if the brain does not get blood supply,
you're in danger.
The person, you're likely to, you can revive him, but you have a vegetable. Yes. So it's always important to call for help and go and do as much as you can. And just by doing chest compression alone, you can save somebody's life. Because that rhythm that made the heart stop, by giving the heart more blood during the chest compression, the heart can generate itself. And sometimes the rhythm will go away. Sometimes the rhythm is so transient.
Well, I think since I have both of you, one of the things that we do in Ghana out of sympathy and philanthropy is if a bus runs somebody down, we catch him, bundle him, throw him at the back of a taxi, and then rush him to the hospital. I mean, in our minds, we are doing good.
Right. So do not transport anybody when you are not capable. Especially when the person is not responding, continue reviving the person. The only time you transport somebody is when he sits up and is asking what is going on. Then you can take him to the nearest hospital. But that precious time in carrying him when his heart, his brain needs blood. You demise him. You cause more problems. And even lifting him, you can break his spine. So if you're not trained, the EMTs, the emergency medical technicians, are trained to mobilize and stabilize somebody's spine before they transport the person. And when they come, give them the chance to perform the revival period, the resuscitation, the cardiopulmonary resuscitation. When the person is revived, they will transport the person. We have encountered numerous times when EMTs are called to a hospital or a facility and the person is dying, and all the people want is send the patient out of here. That is not the time to transport that person. That is the time the person needs your help, needs stabilization. Once it's stabilized, then you can transport the person.
What are some of the challenges you are getting arriving at the scene?
Yeah, just as he said, especially on road traffic crashes. You get there, people are already there before you get there. Unfortunately, they are not trained, but they want quick action. So they will want to just come, open the ambulance, just take the person, and then you throw the person into the ambulance. But that is not how we work. When you get to the scene, you have to assess patient, you assess the situation. Sometimes where even the vehicle is, there may be some danger. You don't know. And then before you realize there is explosion. So we assess to be sure that the scene is safe, pick the patient from there if the place is not safe to a particular, a better place, then assess, do a little bit of management of the patient, stabilizing and then immobilizing the spine. Maybe something you need to put the person on a spine board before you move the person to the ambulance. But you see that somebody is involved in an ambulance, in a road traffic crash. Somebody has just held the limbs, upper limbs, lower limbs, and the body is dangling like this, and then you push. You are rather causing more harm than good. So these are some of the things that the people have to understand as when we get to the scene of incidents.
Well, all too soon, that's what time would allow us, but my hope and my prayer for us is that we'll get angry at the wrong things. Get angry at the wrong things, and once we are able to achieve that, we'll be amazed how priorities will fall in place. I want to say thank you so much to Dr. Joseph Akama and Foster Bridjan for all this insightful conversation, but hopefully we shall get angry at the wrong things. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. For all this insightful conversation, but hopefully we shall get angry at the wrong things. Thank you.